Good evening, Jamie. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Good evening.
I want to welcome everybody to the Paranormal Lens podcast. I'm here with my good friend Jamie Widener. We are team members of Jott-Nyx Paranormal. We come to you every Tuesday night live, and then we are on all sorts of different podcast networks that you can check us out the next day, typically, and go back and look at our library of stuff that's getting uploaded slowly but surely.
Steadily. It's very steadily.
So, how are you doing, Jamie?
Doing well. Doing well. School started this week, so we're all getting back into a different routine.
Are you finally in 12th grade?
I'm going to graduate this year. Yep. Yay.
So actually, you're not going to graduate this year, but I know we have a student who
we do.
You know.
Yep. The countdown had already started yesterday for a number of days left. So
yeah,
not a big thing, but a thing.
Mm-hmm. So
we were all there before, so I get it.
It's an exciting thing.
Yep.
Lots of last firsts and firsts and all those fun things this year.
Yeah, the first was a dual enrollment college class. That was yesterday too. So
yeah,
holy cow! No, not yet. I know you know. So
yeah,
not yet.
So, anything interesting this weekend or this past week?
I can't. I honestly, it all went by so very fast. I can't say I did anything extraordinary or exceptional. Certainly nothing spooky. That's for sure. We're on a bit of a hiatus from Booby's Brewery, so I'm just trying to get the stuff done. The normal stuff done. So the non-paranormal. I guess that makes it normal, right? So
yeah, something like that.
But you, anything exciting?
Just work.
Even
work. Yeah, which is it's nice to have some overtime. So
there you go. Hey, before we get speaking of work, I'm not going to give away what you do, but I can say that you are a carpenter and a professional tradesman. And if you want to share, you had some quality work presented nationally last week that if anyone tuned in would have seen. Want to share?
I mean, I'm going to be a little vague because I'm not sure how much we're supposed to share. But on Thursday night, there was a speaker who spoke on national TV, and there was a lectern that they stood at, and I may or may not
perhaps that was
maybe a big national convention. I may or may not have had a lot of work to do on that lectern, so it was pretty exciting. So to see work that I've done out there like that. So
that's really it was cool. I saw it, and I'm saying it was pretty awesome. So the company you work for creates awesome things for a lot of different industries that sadly, as you told me, I asked, well, what happens afterwards? And you're like, nope, it goes away.
Yep.
So
I build dumpster.
Way to build trash.
Yeah, I build dumpster fodder, Jamie. That's
here it is. Yep. Hey, it's got to go somewhere.
So anyway.
Hey, it's the craftsmanship that matters. So
yes,
congratulations.
But I do some pretty interesting and exciting work. But yeah, so
cool.
So anyway,
speaking of interesting work, see how he brings this in? Slide right in.
I did notice that. So let me see.
Bert Lynch. Hey, guy. What's up, dude?
Hey, Bert. So
and Amanda. Good evening.
Good to see everybody here tonight.
Jim's
anyway.
Jim. Good.
So let's get started. I did do some. With
look, there's a comment here from Heather, who suggested this topic. I'm so excited, ready for tonight. So no pressure, Chad. Right?
I should
just like the last episode on the Laurel Hill Cemetery. No pressure. Don't F it up. Okay.
Well, and we did find out that your last episode, the Tulpa.
Yep.
We had Jenny was really interested in and couldn't join us, but realized that they could watch it later and was watching it later. So I'm glad that she remembered that. So
good. Yep. That's the benefit of being on the multimedia outlets that we are on. So perfect.
So anyway, but let's jump into tonight's episode. Jamie, I know that you're a big fan of Atlas Obscura, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So when I was researching this topic, I found some short stories pertaining to our topic on their website. So I decided to use those as the opening for tonight. Okay. So imagine, if you would, that we are on one of our road trips with the whole gang and we have
Mhm.
traveled to Ireland. Are you ready?
Okay.
So here, let's set the mood. There's a nice Irish sunset. So you're a banker living in a cottage in Dublin. It's autumn and the wind is brisk but pleasant. So you decide to take a nighttime stroll. You latch your gate behind you and you turn to find a stranger dressed in a fashionable suit. He begins to tell you your own family secrets: sins, adultery, sorrows, destitution. Then he tells you what's going to happen to you. Your wife will leave, your money will run dry, your world will crumble. He laughs, turns around, and is gone. Just like that. Or perhaps you're a plowman living in a farm shed outside Kilkenny. You're blowing it out at the local pub to forget the pain of your blistered hands and sore back. When last call comes, you stumble out and realize you can't find your way home in the darkness. But a sleek black horse appears, and you don't seem to mind or notice that its eyes are aflame and that it is speaking to you, offering you a ride home. After an impossibly fast and terrifying ride over fences and fields and gaping chasms, you wake up face down in a field. Or you're just 9 years old, and it's harvest time at your family's farm near Tipperary. As you help your mother pick blackberries, a dark, shiny rabbit suddenly appears. You're new here, he says, but long ago I lived in this house. He says he knows you've been eating the berries and that tomorrow the unpicked berries will be ruined. They'll be fairy blasted. Then he tells you not to play in the woods by the creek. There's danger there. Before you can tell him you believe him, he's vanished.
I would honestly, Chad, if I would have stopped them and said, "Silly rabbit, tricks are for kids." So there.
Yeah, if a rabbit's talking to me, I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, you might have had one too many Guinnesses along the way.
Yeah.
All right.
So, what do all three of these experiences have in common? They all describe.
Wait, is this a trick question?
No, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Do you have an answer?
One is pints. Too many pints. Oof. Maybe some form of herbal products
No,
along the way too. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe a Mickey in your Mickey. Goodness, they all sound fantastical. First of all,
They do, right?
But they have to have a common denominator, right?
They do. They all describe possible encounters with an Irish fairy. Now, there are many different types of fairies in Irish lore, so we could probably do 4 or 5 different Irish folklore episodes because there's plenty. You've got your, well.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about the leprechauns tonight, and we're not going to talk about the banshee, but we are going to talk about something that might be even more feared, and that's the Púca. Oh, wait. Not
I drafted that guy this weekend. That's what I did. I had a fantasy draft. I forgot. So
yeah, we don't want Púca na Cua. We are talking about the Irish folklore Púca.
Actually, you do want Púca na Cua on your team. You do. I'm telling you.
Anyway. So we're going to talk about the Irish folklore Púca, and that's what you see here. So according to the website Wilderness Ireland, Púca are shape-shifting troublemakers that can manifest in the form of horses, goats, cats, donkeys, bulls, dogs, foxes, wolves, and hares, and even human. I mean, so they can shift through the gamut of everything.
So anything.
Pretty much. Yep. Okay. So it is believed that the Púca is most often seen as a horse with a sleek black coat, a wild mane, and flaming eyes. Now, when it is seen in a human form, the Púca will still have some sort of animal characteristic. ears, nose, tail, something like that, that leads to the animal world. So there are many stories about the Púca, but the most common thread among them is how much the Púca loves mischief. So,
Dad, I got to stop you for this comment. Do you know this guy?
yes, yes, I do.
Alex Thomas for the win on this one. I am also a shape-shifting troublemaker. Yes, sir, you are. Good evening and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
So anyway, so the Púca loves mischief, which that's Alex too. So maybe a tie here. So one mischievous thing the horse Púca likes to do is entice a passerby to ride on its back. Now, once the rider has mounted the horse, it takes him on a wild ride. Typically, the rider may have had a few pints already, but even if he hasn't, when he wakes up the next morning, he will be feeling woozy and hungover, with little recollection of what happened. The interesting thing that was noted several places is that even though it may be scary, no harm is actually done. So
interesting.
Another story from Atlas Obscura website is told by Willie Rourke. In 1968, he was an 80-year-old farmer from County Roscommon. He was interviewed by Jim Delaney, a full-time collector of Irish folklore with the Irish Folklore Commission. And this is what he had to say. The Púca often appears to lone travelers on rural roads and paths after dark, especially in fall and winter. He sometimes appeared as an old man, coming up the road with a big stick under his arm and big whisker on him. After November night, no one would be caught out. Any child would be caught out after that. The Púca would bring him off, stick his two horns into him, and carry him off. Now, this isn't to say this terrifying creature didn't have a sense of humor. In horse form, the Púca are most famous for flinging drunk pedestrians onto their backs and galloping off at breakneck speed. So this is all what Willie Rourke had to say.
This is a good time to bring this comment up. So Amanda says, all those forms are so damn cute, I'd be doomed. Right? Like, oh, there's a horse,
let's go pick the horse. And next thing you're on its back and it's taken off. So.
And, Heather, of course, hits it right on the head. Everything Irish seems to be mischievous with a smiley face. Yeah, so. I agree with that.
Another story comes from the then 82-year-old farmer Patrick Johnson of County Westmeath. In his 1964 interview with Delaney, he said, "The Púca would come behind you. He'd run his head right under your two legs, and he'd hoist you back on him. And away he'd start. He'd tear you through bushes, and he'd tear you through ditches. You'd get all torn. He'd fling you off when he'd think you'd had enough." Now, it sounds like he had already had a little bit when he was giving this interview. Now, Johnson added that on at least one occasion, he'd heard of a man subduing and escaping the spirit with a magic word, and this is a good one, spudina gario, and a prod of his left hand with his thumb on the side. The tactic allowed the man to dismount relatively unharmed, even though, like many Púca riders, this fella had a good sup of drink in him. So I love these Irish quotes because it's just something you
don't hear it, right?
So,
I'd bring up another quick comment. So from Todd and Carmela, okay, mental note: don't go out after dark on paths in Ireland.
Exactly.
Like a ghost emoji and a laughing emoji. So yeah.
So now, Jamie,
stay at the pub. You'll be fine.
Keep with the drink. The problem with pubs in most of these countries, Jamie, they close at like 10 or 11.
Yeah, well, but again, you're up for work early, all that stuff. So it's not a bad thing. I won't argue that.
So
only trouble happens after midnight anyway.
so
Jamie, you get home ahead of the Púca, right?
Yeah,
you slide in just in time.
Yeah. So Jamie, now hearing these stories of the Púca, would you try to intentionally mount a Púca?
That's a great question.
Okay.
Let's see.
Would any sane person try to mount a Púca?
Hey. Hold on a second. It's a dependent question, right?
Okay.
Or answer. It depends on how many pints. No, I'm kidding. You know, I suppose if you don't know what you don't know, the answer may be probably maybe, or maybe
Right.
anyway. Probably even. The challenge with at least coming into the horse form is it's not easy to mount a horse without a saddle,
Right.
right? Because you can, and it's been done many times,
Hmm.
but unless you know exactly what to do and how to do it, you're going to wind up on the ground anyway.
This is
So,
true.
I would say probably not if I didn't know what I was doing, which
Okay.
in this moment I don't. But if I lived there and I was relying on a horse, perhaps, or I was in a place where I had to rely on a horse, maybe, because a horse is a horse is a horse, of course.
Right.
It's
Okay.
Mr. Ed. So,
So,
yeah.
I don't think most people would intentionally try to mount a Púca if it knew about the Púca, but
If you know what it is, I'd say
right.
no. But if a
Okay.
horse,
Well,
the horse the image you show here of the
it
horse
looks like
doesn't exactly look like a normal horse. So, like that horse looks weird. Okay, I'm not sure what you are. I'm going to stay away. Okay, but if I got like Black Beauty there, or Seabiscuit,
Black
I'm
Beauty
on.
doesn't have flaming eyes, So, anyway.
Well, dude, after a couple pints and a few whiskeys, what doesn't have flaming eyes? I have flaming eyes.
All right. So, but moving on. Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland from 1002 to 1014, decided to give it a try. Now, he fashioned a bridle that had 3 strands of Púca hair in it to help tame the Púca. Now, there's just a story of him trying to do it. There's no story of whether or not he was successful or not. So maybe that tells you right there that he wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, probably not a good idea.
So, being a paranormal investigator, one of our questions might be, where can I find the Púca? They're typically found in rural areas. It is believed they are found in Ireland's remote hills, mountains, and bogs. Now, they're not limited to one specific area of Ireland, and they're also found in other Celtic cultures. Typically, they're found between dusk and dawn, and more often than not, they're found around fall, around the Samhain celebration. Now, you're familiar with that holiday, right, Jamie? Samhain?
Nah, maybe.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. Not that name of it, but what's the Americanized version of it?
So it's an ancient pagan holiday that falls on the last day of October.
Oh yeah, Thanksgiving. I got you. Of course.
No. So,
interesting. Okay.
In the
I got it.
All right. So in the Celtic calendar, this is considered the last day of fall. We, of course, know it as Halloween. Samhain also marks the end of the farming season. Farmers would prepare their fields for winter, leaving what wasn't harvested for the Púca. Typically, this was the undesirable or unharvestable crops. Okay. But fairy-conscious farmers would leave some usable crops unharvested. This was considered the Púca share. The idea being that this would appease the mischievous spirits and keep them from doing any trickery. Now, is this starting to sound familiar at all? Giving things to create trickery? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm sensing a pattern emerging here.
Yep. Okay. Another Celtic belief is that on Samhain, the veil between our worlds and the spirit world is the thinnest.
Okay. Yep.
Irish people would leave offerings to appease the fairies. Typically, this would be some sort of food. This was to avoid harming the people who lived there. Disguises were also used to confuse the spirits. And vegetables like turnips were carved with grotesque faces to ward them away. So I think we can see how this pagan tradition has morphed into our current Halloween. It's funny how it all comes together, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Amanda's comment, the Púca clean up all the trash. So, it's like public service.
Mm-hmm. So November 1st, okay, so October 31st is Samhain. November 1st is Púca's Day. And this is the one day a year that the Púca can be expected to act civilly. It is said anything not harvested by November 1st is spoiled and should not be picked. After that, most berries and fruits were overripe and would start to shrivel, and the Púca were blamed. Farmers would say that the spirits spit on them and caused them to die, or at least that's one explanation. Now, you remember Patrick Johnson from Atlas Obscura that we talked about earlier?
Yep.
Johnson recalled that anyone who wanted to pick blackthorn berries or sloes should do so before Halloween, or else, and I quote, if they didn't pull them before that night, the Púca would shite on them and all the sloes, and they couldn't be used. So okay. Those are the two ways the Púca ruin the fruits and vegetables.
So silly Púca.
So I've talked about how mischievous the Púca can be, but if you feed them and treat them with respect, they might be helpful. There's an old Irish legend that talks about a farmer's son who was out on a cold night. He noticed a Púca and offered him a coat to keep warm. The Púca was grateful, and to return the favor, would mill the corn that was harvested during the day into flour during the night. They were also blessed with fertile soil and financial prosperity. The Púca eventually moved on from the humble farm, but when he did, it left a gold cup filled with a strange, happiness-inducing drink. So, there you go. I really want to try to travel to Ireland with all. I mean, there's so much here. So, if I were to travel to Ireland, I would hope to. Well, were you say something, Jamie? Sorry.
No, yep. Let's go. Right. You don't have to ask me twice. I mean, come on.
Okay. I would hope to come across the more benevolent Púca spirits. Now, that being said, we focused on the Irish folklore here, but not only do we find ties to the Celtic culture in the Celtic culture of Northwest Europe, but also others. In the Scandinavian language, we find an old Icelandic word, puki, P-U-K-I, which means mischievous demon. We also find Púki in the Faroese Germanic language. In Norse and Old Swedish, Púki, P-U-K-E, meant devil, evil spirit, or mischievous person. In certain regions of Sweden, the word P-U-K-E, Púki, is still used for evil spirit, goblin, or devil. Now, my favorite spelling is from the Welsh mythology, which is P-W-C-A. The Púca definitely has its roots in many European countries. There are probably 5 or 6 iterations that I didn't include here, but I do have them on the screen if you want to check out the video that goes along with this podcast. It seems strange to end with some etymology here, but I found this to be interesting. The origin of the word seems to go back to the Irish language, which is interesting that most root words don't go back to Irish languages like this. But it would have been spelled differently since primitive Irish lacked a character for the P sound. Another thing is that Púca is a cultural word, not a practical word. It would have been used to tell stories, folklore, and legends. Since it's not a practical word that would have been used in trading, how did it end up in so many different languages? There seems to be an earlier mixing of cultures between the Irish and Germanic people than earlier believed. So not only do we have a question here whether or not it's paranormal, but we could dig into some early European history conspiracies, or maybe we should leave that to another episode, Jamie.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah.
But
I think we got one there for sure.
But let's talk about the Púca and is it paranormal?
Ooh. Based on just the surface, right? The surface information of a shapeshifter, spirit, some kind of fairy, kind of maybe a goblin, maybe kind of. I mean, there's a lot of things it could be. All of those things are not normal, right? So therefore, it must be paranormal or non-normal. So I would say there's probably something to this. Now, I think there's a really good comment here I want to share quick from Todd and Carmela. Were these stories passed down and told by sober and non-sober Irishmen? I think there's some validity in this question,
Well,
right?
I mean,
And I'm making light here. Look, I want to say something to clear the air on this. I have an Irish grandfather, okay, who was sober as a stone every day, right? So I'm painting a picture, and it's a bad one, perhaps, and I don't want to perpetrate that all Irish people do is drink, because they certainly are hardworking individuals, have lots and lots of responsibilities. It's a stereotype, and I don't mean to perpetrate it. In fairness, but in that, it does go to the point of the stories being passed down. That becomes folklore, right? And folklore is we've covered this before. We had an episode on folklore a little while back with some of the urban legends, which are largely the same. The question then is, how long has the story been in play and how many versions? Because every time you tell a story, you're telling a version of it and you're turning it into your version. So you modify, even unintentionally, but still happens. So a slight modification, and we're all the hero in our own stories, right? We want to tell a good story. Exactly. So, I think what might have been something slightly rational for explanation probably became a little bit more extraordinary every time it was told, just to make it more fantastical. And some of this, I think, early in the presentation, you were talking about, kind of getting the kids in by a certain time, So we've covered this so many times over, with these stories that are meant to scare people from doing something, that they shouldn't be, and out at night, nothing happens but trouble, right? So I wouldn't say that as if I were a young person, of course, but as I'm this age, I'm really going to say that because I want the kids in, and out of harm's way. So that's why you tell this kind of story. And, that part of it, that starts to seem kind of rational, right? Not necessarily. But what if there's some truth in it? And there's always a little bit of truth in every story. So regardless how fantastic it is, it has a basis in something. So I think it could very well be paranormal. And it's the only way we're going to find out is if we go and check it out ourselves.
Yeah. So, Heather and Bert, make sure you book 2 extra tickets next time you go. Jamie, give us the dates. We'll be there.
Yeah, I just need some dates.
So, I definitely, I'm skeptical on this one. Again, it's a very fantastical story. It's interesting, but I agree. I agree with the folklore. I mean, you don't want to pick. Well, I see 2 reasons for this. You don't want to pick overripe berries because you're going to end up getting sick if you eat them because they're rotting. But you also want to leave things in the winter for animals that are foraging, like the foragers. So you want to leave those things. You want to leave some for them so they can survive the winter, and because you've turned their land into farmland. So
exactly that.
So leave some for the animals. The horse, taking you on a wild ride, again, like you said, that's to keep people off the paths after dark.
Yep, exactly. Now, there's a comment I want to share here too, though. A certain Alex Thomas, who we both know and love very well, with a trampoline and a good attitude, I can mount a horse. That's the spirit, buddy. That's the person you don't want out there after dark.
This is true, because he would try. I know he would try.
I know he would too. But you're right, and the spin of this has kind of that parental warning, in it, the cautionary tale, that gets you to be, attentive to your surroundings and your environment. And even so, I mean, if you come across a wild animal, a wild horse, for example, it is not going to be that friendly to you as it would be if it were a horse in your stable, that's been broken and trained. So, you run the risk of having, the horse buck or kick you or throw you, all these things, that then you're out there somewhere, out in the wild, you may or may not be found immediately. And hopefully you have a friend with you. Never go anywhere alone, right?
Right.
So, but people do. And, then they do stuff like this. And then that's where they don't come back, or they don't come back healthy. So,
Right.
again, a cautionary tale. Just don't do it.
Now, the other side of this too is, there was a benevolent Púca, and it's, that's saying, it is okay to be kind, because if you're kind, then you will get things in return.
Right.
So,
True.
it's almost like you've got some religious guidance going on here, Jamie.
A little bit. But there's a thought on what's in the cup from Heather. So,
Yep.
it makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then and Bert came behind it, of course, because it could also be whiskey, which will make you happy. So you're back to drinking again. We keep spinning back.
So I find
it's interesting. It's a gold cup too. Like, there's value in the cup. It's kind of like, and I'll spin this off to a leprechaun. Obviously what we want to see is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? That's our goal to finding that leprechaun and getting to that place. So, doing the goodwill here is getting you that gold cup, and obviously the liquid, whatever that is. I'm not even going to suppose to guess what it could be.
This week it could be coffee for me.
It would be great if it were, right? So maybe a little Red Bull, whatever. But the idea is that the cup has the value, because the liquid will be gone at some point. But the gold of the cup is the true value worth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. That's why you should always do good things.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
So, I mean, I find it interesting that folklore gives some of the same guidance that religion does. And, because a lot of the religious laws of the earlier times, especially Old Testament, were rules to keep people safe, because they, not eating cloven hooved animal. Like, they couldn't process pork to eat it safely. So it was like, well, just avoid it. Don't eat it. So, So yeah, it's interesting how there's parallel lines in this as well.
Though, Chad, as soon as you say don't do something, there's another mindset that says you can't stop me.
Yeah.
Or hold my happy beverage in my gold cup.
Yeah, I'm expecting another comments from Alex here somewhere.
But yeah, you're right. There's so many crossings here, of things that, if you it's like an onion, right? You peel away the layers, you start getting something. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And I think with everything paranormal, we have to take it at face value, because it's not a science, and it's not an exact science anyway. Maybe things are scientific about how we go about our processes, but the thing itself isn't. And that's where the open mind comes in, and that's where the consideration comes in. And with stories like these, who am I to say that it's not plausible, or it's not true? I mean, I'm not there. I've never experienced it. That's the disadvantage of being from afar and doing a topic like this.
Right.
But it's no different than being in a paranormal investigation, and we're in the room, and we're making our best effort to make contact and engagement, and we have the things that we feel are necessary to do so with objects and devices. But there could just be somebody standing there like, not today, buddy.
Right.
And we just don't know that. That's not to say because something's, and this is an old tagline from Jott-Nyx, right? Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Exactly.
So the idea would be the same with this. It's because we can't quite put a finger on it and say exactly that thing right there is a Púca. That doesn't mean it's not truly there, or it's not a real thing at all.
So Jamie, Todd and Carmela had a question here. Do you think these folklore stories are still passed down today? So what's your take on this?
I would spin that off to the Lynches, who have recently been to Ireland, at least on 2 trips, I believe, in the last couple of years. So they've stayed in country. They've been there for an extended time. I'm assuming that there's been some time spent with locals and all the various establishments, obviously pubs, but as guests of the country, I would wonder for their opinion. I'll give them a couple seconds to answer that, but I would have to say yes, because we still tell stories, right? Of things. So we pass down traditional stuff all the time.
We do, but the other side of that is, with the internet and with things like we're doing tonight, we are passing these stories down to another set of people.
True.
And
True.
and there, we're one of thousands or hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there who are telling a lot of these same stories. So we are disseminating it. It's just in a different way. So
Right. That's fair. And do you have, this is a question for everybody, but for you specifically, since we're here, do you have to be in the environment for it to be passable? Do you have to have a contact point to it? Is it a cautionary tale if you're not there? As it's intended not to be out after dark, not to do this, not to do that, whatever. Does it have the same impact to us as we're across the pond? Literally.
Mhm.
And it's still good advice, right?
Mhm.
To not don't do stupid stuff, right? That's parent advice 101. Don't do dumb stuff. um, but without a context to why, it's just a saying. It's just a statement. But as soon as you add the flair and the flavor of what a puka would do to you, on a wild ride through the brambles and bushes and creeks and hollers and bogs and everything, then all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't want to do that. Well, most people would say they don't want to do that. I'm sure
Right.
somebody would say, I'm all in, Alex Thomas. But, it makes me wonder, does it have the same effect here versus there?
Right. I don't know. It's
we have haunted house tales, right? Don't go to that house because
Right.
it's this, and it's meant to scare people from going there, and most people will follow that advice.
Mhm.
But then there's us. To go find a way in.
Or Dave.
Or Dave. Definitely Dave. Love you, Dave, but it's Dave every day.
Mhm. All right. So Bert got back to us. I can't say for sure, but with talking to locals, they seem to follow traditions in many ways. So I would say probably are carried on, especially by the elders. I hope the young carry it on.
I agree with that. There's a lot of in the professional world we call it institutional knowledge, right?
Right.
But otherwise it's cultural knowledge or tribal knowledge, and in our personal lives, and it's the same idea that those the elders are the repositories for all things knowledge and expertise, and not everybody wants to hear what they have to offer, but someone's listening, and hopefully they're willing to share and continue. They keep trying to share at least, and these things keep going and going and going.
Right. So
you brought up a good point. The internet is a wonderful tool in a lot of ways. It's detrimental in some because of you can always have your phone in your hand, when you're trying to get to sleep or whatever. But if you were looking for information and all of this fantastical stuff is out there. I just did right before we came on. I just did a quick Google search for Púca, and I came across a ton of stuff. So I know it's out there. And
Right.
too, that's fantastic. That's how we found most of this information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's keep it going.
So Todd and Carmela said, if we make it to Ireland, we will be sure to camp out overnight in the fall to see if we can see a puka. Kind of like Linus spent the night in the pumpkin patch.
That's it.
So we're tying it all back together here to Halloween. So very nicely done, Todd and Carmela.
Perfect. So, nice little bow there.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Again, isn't it interesting that we've got a pagan tradition, pagan holiday, pagan celebration that we have Americanized or
it's mainstream. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
an industry. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it's it's every bit of it. The disguises were part of it because they to try to trick the puka, leaving carved turnips. Yeah. I mean,
I've turnips anyway.
I've seen some turnips that look like grotesque faces without carving them. Just the leaving things for to prevent trickery. It's just it's we've taken somebody else's culture and we've made it our own, which I think is common. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the other side of this, and with respect to uniqueness, everything you mentioned, all the different origins for Púca, all the countries and what it was considered there. That tells me right away there's crossover, and if we look at a lot of different things that we've discussed here, we will find it in different places. I mean, even going back to the Dark Watchers, which is probably a natural phenomenon, but it's also believed to be in the Alps versus in the west coast of the U.S.
Right.
I mean, just the carry that we have now, and the Europe is a bit different because it's the older, established civilization, before coming to America and expanding beyond to other parts of the world. The historians that were there have those histories are deep. There's new buildings in Europe that are older than my house, in our country, kind of
Right.
thing. It's a bad example, but so it's just what would be considered now as new as forever old for us. So that crossover and that connection. You mentioned the Germanic influence in Ireland. Some would say the Romans have some influence as well. There's so much engagement that stories get told, things get passed along, and then, it's the old shampoo commercial. I think it was Gina Tay from back in the 70s or 80s. You tell two friends and they tell two friends, and then the screen kept splitting. And all of a sudden, if you start doing that, and the concept it's fantastic. It was ahead of its time that way. Like, that's how stories get told. Right. Somebody tells somebody who tells somebody who tells somebody. The problem, and this is what I was saying earlier, is that once you start spreading the story to story to story, it loses a little bit. It's like playing telephone or whisper down the lane. What you started with over here is not the same as it ends over there. So, you have to have that consideration. But, and that's not a bad thing overall. It's just a thing. Because it is part of the progression of information sharing. Right. And now that we have the internet, everything's a fact, right?
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln has told us that when he invented the internet.
When he invented the internet, right. Yeah. Exactly. I remember that. I was there when he did that.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting topic. I mean, I'm sure that I could have gone many, 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 many more stories about different things. But these were the highlights. So
that's cool. That's really cool. And it brings in you bring in some things, right? That we talked about early. Like this could be many episodes of many different versions of it. But fairies are a contestable topic, whether they're real or not. You're getting into other folklore tales. There's a lot here in the country of Ireland, that we can unpack. And we probably will, maybe an episode, right around St. Patrick's Day or something would be appropriate.
Do we get to go to an Irish bar and study?
Oh, we could do that. We could broadcast. Yeah, we could be live from the bar. I mean, that would be bad.
That would be bad on St. Patrick's Day.
No. Maybe. But it's that kind of thing. And this is I think this is true to say for everything we've discussed so far in all these episodes, is that there's always a tangent to expand upon, beyond what we've done. And that's pretty cool. And we joked, I think I did anyway. I think when David was still with us, we were joking about how we're never going to run out of content. And it's true.
Right.
And for as many other broadcasts that are out there, other shows, other podcasts, whatever you want to call us, these things, they're all doing stuff too. And like the content is almost unlimited. It's just how you choose to receive it, where you receive it from. We appreciate those who choose us, and I'm sure you're not your only choice. So thank you for spending this time with us.
We have podcasts that we listen to and get ideas from.
Absolutely.
When we get to our upcoming episodes, I changed one that I was going to do because I found a story really interesting. So
yeah, exactly. And that's the cool thing with when you, I was listening to one today, and they were talking about how, and it's a 4 or 5 year old program now. So, they've been at it a while, and they were talking about how they wanted to do something a bit different for an episode, and they realized that they could because it's their show and they make the rules, like how they do it. Instead of like being under someone's contract or some other, contingency. It was, it was kind of funny. And I'm like, well, the same with us. Like, if we want to change the schedule, we can change the schedule, and that's what we say about the content wise. If somebody wanted, like this episode was a submission from Heather and Bert, so, and we bumped it in, like we can do that anytime we
Right.
want to. When we juggle the schedule, we come across something that might be situational for a season or a holiday or an event.
Mhm.
We can do that. And that's
Yep.
cool. That's totally okay. And,
Yep.
so yes. But there's a lot of inspiration just in the world. So
Right.
we're always looking
If
for
I
it.
had known a little more about this when I was scheduling it, I would have done it closer to Halloween or Samhain and tied it into that. But I didn't even cover that there's a in Ireland there's a huge Púca festival every year at the end of the year during Halloween. So anyway, Heather's thanked us for doing the suggestion, and that we should go to an Irish bar and do a podcast. So
Okay. But now it's listener submitted, so we have to do it.
Exactly.
Right. There's a nice comment here we should see as well. Todd and Carmela, thank you. Enjoyed the show and the history of the Púca, Chad. Always a pleasure watching and learning from what you both share. Agree with Heather. Irish Bar Podcast.
Oh, it's 2 submissions now, Jamie.
We're double down now. Yeah.
So
it's like a double stamp, right? So we're in. All right. I got a spot if we want to go. Don't worry.
All right.
So yeah, Chad, great topic. And the Lynches, Bert and Heather, thank you for the submission on this. Obviously, you guys have been there and done that on the Emerald Isle. So it's a near and dear topic for you. But thanks for bringing it forward to us so we can bring it to light a bit more. And it's really cool. Oh, well, now it's a fact. Amanda, Irish Bar Podcast 3. So
well, and Bert's 4. Like we're,
5.
What we're gonna have to do is get everybody, all of our listeners, together at the Irish Bar and do a live like that. And yep.
Done. All right. Rally point. We'll share the coordinates. Don't worry. All right. Thanks, guys.
We'll move on, Jamie.
Yeah, we probably should before we get canceled. Oh, here I gotta share. We always have a road trip, right? Now we have a group trip instead. So
Well, I started it out with a road trip.
There it is. Never mind. Bert, road trip.
So we got
stuff, right? So upcoming episodes, it is hurricane season. So I came across a topic from a place called Pawleys Island, South Carolina, and of a ghost there that is a bit of a harbinger for hurricanes. I'll get into that next week and some other stories around the island as well. It's actually quite an active place. As I dug more and more into it, I kept finding more stuff. So we'll have some things to share there. Looking ahead to September 10th, Chad's going to tackle the Selma Mansion out in Norristown.
Correct? That's correct. I've actually been in touch with some people who do quite a bit of stuff there. Trying to coordinate maybe having a guest on for this. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, here's a funny thing. Like when you talk about directions, right? Directional things. I say out in Norristown, but it's really in to the city of Philadelphia. It's a Metro Philly thing. We're out for them. We're out in the country, Right. So it's funny, like up there, down there, over there. So, but the Selma Mansion, a really cool place. I'm really excited to hear what you have on that one. The 17th, I'm going to tackle the Dyatlov. It's a hard word. It's Russian. Past mystery. This is something some folks may have heard of before, seen something on, but it's quite an old experience now, but still a mystery actually. So let's talk about it. Some crazy stuff happened there. And then this is the addition to the schedule that was from last week to this. September 24th, Chad's going to tackle the Lost Lighthouse Keepers of Elian Moir. I probably said that wrong. So
you did, but that's okay.
Yeah, there we go. I think I said a couple episodes. I'm going to English it up here. So
it's Elon Moore.
Elon Moore. That was so close, but yet so wrong. All right. And then the Third Man Syndrome, which is I'm going to pause and not say much there. Wilson Castle up in Vermont's on the schedule. And then the Well of Barhout in Saudi Arabia. is coming up. Quite an interesting place. It's going to tie back to our episode on the gin from way back. So there we go. So a lot of stuff coming up, and then October, mid-October there. So Halloween will be on top of us right after that. So we're going to save some dates there just to cover the spooky day.
Trying to work some stuff out.
We have some thoughts what we can do, and I have another one to discuss with you afterwards too. It's came to mind earlier tonight. So
the Lynches are we gotta start hanging out with the Lynches more because they're doing all these trips, Jamie.
They are everywhere. They really are. But they were just in New England, and I think through Salem on the way back. I saw some pictures and some cool stuff. Mount Washington was climbed and descended. I don't know which one's worse, the up or the down. And I've done it too. But Wilson is on the eastern side. I'm sorry, on the western side of Vermont. Not necessarily on the beaten trail, but not hard to get to either. It's just from here, it's forever away, but doable, very doable. Well, we've talked about going as well. So yes, this is the road trip. Add it to the list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So and we would be very remiss if we didn't talk about our spooktacular event coming up on October 19th. Daryl Marston from A&E's Ghost Hunter is going to be joining us, along with Rania Cavetti and Lourdes Gonzalez from the Staticom Project. A fun night, an interesting night, a lot of stuff happening at the brewery these days with activity. So hopefully we can draw you more forward. This will be the first time that Staticom's been there. And that brings in a lot of interesting elements too, because of their closed circuit system and the things that they capture. Right. Daryl is Daryl, and he's just a steady rocking guy. Fantastic investigator, really down to earth dude. A lot of fun, and just he teaches as he goes too. So it's really cool to get his perspective on how he does things. We'll have a meet and greet with him and Ron and Lourdes before, and then investigating with each of them throughout, along with our team. So. Tickets are still available, but they are starting to go. Make your plans. There's plenty of places to stay at the brewery as far as their accommodations, and then lots of cool things around the area too. So make it a weekend. Hang out with us and check out the area.
Jamie, before you move on, Carmel went to Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum on Saturday. Amazing location, sad but amazing history and experiences. So
wow, great! That's really cool.
We may have to get them on and do an episode about Tala.
Yeah. Well, speaking of road trips, Chad, I guess I have to share this now. I was going to hold on to it for a while, but I just found out yesterday, late last evening actually, that a group of us, being our team from Jott-Nyx, New Jersey, Tim and Erica, and some folks over there, along with some of Jott-Nyx parent team here in Lancaster County, we have booked a trip to Tala on coming up in April. So forever away right now, but it'll be here before we know it. So yes, we have to do a pre and post kind of episode. Todd and Carmela, you're certainly welcome to join us on the air that time. Give us your insights. I believe the Kellers have been there as well in the past. Jerry and Melissa, our team founders. I'm pretty sure I'm true to say that. I'd love to have everybody come on. And then we'll get everybody in who goes, as we did with other past episodes like on White Hill and such. So definitely want to get everyone's stuff. So, and I don't know, I talk about shows, right? We've watched, and I can tell you, if you have not yet seen it, I highly recommend Expedition X, which is one of those Josh Gates shows. They just started season 8, and the first 2 episodes are at Tala, and they had some crazy stuff captured. Especially, it's a 2-part episode, season 8, episodes 1 and 2. The end of episode 2, I can't not see that what I saw there anymore. Like, I can't forget about it.
Wow.
An option that they presented at the very end, which. So watch it. We'll talk about it later.
Sounds good.
Exciting. So, but before we ever get to that, the Spooktacular event is coming up, and it's going to be a fun night. So please join us if you
can. Erica wants in on the Wilson Castle trip.
Yes, there, Erica, welcome.
So, Jamie, since you're talking about Ron and Lourdes, I'm going to tie something else into this.
Okay.
Jamie and I are going to be appearing on a podcast with Ron and Lourdes, Tony and Cherie, and Chris and Audra.
Yep.
Entity. See, I remembered all 6 of them, Jamie. I did it.
You did so well.
We're going to be on Entity Voices Paranormal on September 16th, I believe is the date.
16th or 19th. It's a Monday, whatever that is.
16th, September 16th. Okay. So we invite you to join us that night. You're going to have fun, Jamie. Definitely, Jeff, a great group of people. They're probably going to want us to have some of our evidence, so we're going to have to really dig in and find some of the stuff that we've got.
Okay.
So just giving you a heads up. So
we can get there. No worries. Mm-hmm. No worries at all. It's funny. That's another one that's like, oh, don't worry. It's a couple weeks out. Next thing you know, it's Sunday night before, and we're like scrambling. So as always, plan ahead. So, hey, John, glad you could join us for a little bit. Welcome.
So anyway, sorry, I kept interrupting you there, Jamie.
No, you're good. You're good. So just to finish the point, spectacular event coming up October 19th. Be there, be square. Telling you now, all the cool kids will be there. And then for us, otherwise, lots of public events coming up at Booby's Brewery, September 7th and 28th. It's a double dip for the month. And it's been a little while since we've been there. So hopefully that we get a lot of activity on that first night back. October 12th, another public event, the spectacular event the weekend after. And then closing out the year, I can't believe it's the end of 24 already. It's the 16th of November and the 7th of December. And then we'll have dates as we get closer to this for next year. We'll get them out as soon as they become available. We have to be settled up with everybody yet, but they're coming.
Yep.
So come out and join us there too. Tickets are available for all of these events on the Booby's Brewery website, boobiesbrewery.com. And then, the tickets are starting to go for September 7th. And it's coming up pretty quickly. It's next weekend. Weekend after next, I'm sorry. Gosh, Labor Day is this weekend. How's this happening already, dude? Like, really? Amazing. It was February, like 2 weeks ago.
That's going to be the 7th. Going to be a busy day for us because we have a 16th birthday party for somebody that day.
Yeah, that's true. Gosh.
Anyway,
how's that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, time flies when you're having fun and doing paranormal stuff. So
yeah. So you're graduating high school this year and turning 16, Jamie. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my driver's license. It's going to happen.
Anyway. So.
Yeah, gosh.
Well, can you believe another
That's a great age, but I don't want to do it again.
Definitely not.
I'll be where I'm at.
So,
Ghost stuff. Thanks, Alex.
So yeah, Alex is joining the team, working with the team now. So maybe we're going to see his face more often. I do have to give him a shout out because he's actually joining us from Hawaii right now.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So
aloha.
So we hope you're having we hope you're having a great time, Alex. By the way, I think since you're there, you should do some research because there's definitely a lot of Hawaii specific stories that maybe you should do some research and come join us.
Challenge issued.
So anyway, believe it or not, Jamie, another hour has gone by.
Same thing. Flies when you're having fun, right? So,
and what did I say to you when we came in? I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna be a short episode. We're gonna be out of here in no time.
Yeah, Chad said 10 minutes tops. He promised me too. Like, come on, man. I knew better.
So,
no, it's all good. And this is exactly why we do this. We start a conversation. Thanks for our guests for obviously contributing to it. But things just kind of expand, and that's the greatness of having a discussion about a topic or an item. It can go left and right, up and down, but it's all cool. So I really appreciate it. Again, great topic. So that always leads to more time.
Yep. And again, thanks, Heather. We appreciate you throwing it out there for us.
Absolutely.
Challenge accepted and completed. So I guess what I forgot that we had yet was to put up how to get
socials. Yeah. I mean, you found us on Facebook or on YouTube, you know where we are, but we're also, again, for those who are listening after the fact, we are a live show on Tuesday nights at 9. So if you're with us on Spotify, Apple Podcast or Audible or other outlets, even more than that, bear with us. There are some slides you're missing here, but feel free to drop us a comment if you have that capacity on your outlet. Certainly give us a rating. We'd love to have a 5-star rating. We appreciate that. Hopefully we've earned it. And even if we didn't, it's cool anyway. We're not going to tell. But thanks. We appreciate you joining us either way, and be honest what you feel. With that, we're always trying to get better. So comments are always helpful. And then if you have a topic you'd like to share with us, and you can't leave a comment on the outlet you're on, we have a website of Paranormal Lens Podcast at gmail.com. I'll spell it out, Paranormal Lens Podcast and gmail.com. So,
Jamie,
feel free to reach out.
I thought we had our first fan mail today.
Oh,
it was spam.
Oh,
it was like, wanted to come on our podcast and sell something. It was like, nope, delete.
No.
So one of these days. So if you have a topic you want us to do, send us an email. Or if you have a story you want to share, put an email and send it to us. We'd appreciate that. So
absolutely. All right, sir. End of another.
Yeah. So it's as always, Jamie, it's great to spend an hour with you on a Tuesday night. So talking paranormal is always fun. So
it is. And thanks for, again, I keep saying thanks for the topic, but for bringing it each week. We're always, you always bring something interesting and engaging. So
yep.
I gotta keep up the pace next week. So
oh, I'm sure you're up for the challenge. I know. So
Uh-oh. Here's a topic for America. Vampires in America.
All
right. And Bert did say that you can't rate on Facebook, but I give you a 10, which is outstanding. And then there was a bit of a walk back, 5 apiece. Thanks, dude.
Thanks,
remember that. We'll remember that. But that's all good.
All right. Well, on that note, Jamie, we should say good night to everybody. Thanks for joining us. Tell your friends. Come hang out again with us next Tuesday. And have a great week. Stay spooky and all those fun things. And happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. Enjoy the day.
All right. Good night, everybody.